Welcome back to the Comics Aficionados, the best comic-related podcast on YouTube, Podbean, Apple, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're all over the place now. The things are growing. We're blowing up. We got a wonderful panel. We got a lot of topics to cover today. We're going to talk about the big article that dropped yesterday about Comic Book Blacklist. We're going to talk about Scout Comics signing with Lunar. They're no longer an exclusive distributor for DC Comics. We also had Infinite Frontier #0 drop. The new era DC Comics is hitting, and it's also going to be a event series this summer. We've also got Tom King on a Supergirl comic. Why do I think that's a good idea? I'll let you know. MCU is also reportedly, and I think this is a bad rumor, dropping X-Men for the Mutants. Cable's ending at #2. And we also had BRZRKR #1, the highest selling comic book issue in, I believe, 6 years. Maybe it was 7, dropped this week. We'll talk about that. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have a wonderful panel joining us for the first time in a long time from the Real Comic Book Gamer YouTube channel. Dylan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me back.
I'm glad you could make it. It's been too long. I know it's early, so I'm glad you could make it today.
I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Next up, we've got the independent editor, award-winning editor, Joe Corallo. How you doing?
I'm all right, Wes. How are you?
I'm doing very well. We got the East Coast. We got the West Coast. Do we have the Midwest in the house? Yes, we do. Gevian Daragan from Chicago, Illinois, representing animated.
Morning, everybody. Yeah, morning, everybody. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone's doing okay. Looking forward to this as always.
Absolutely. Also representing the Steel City, my co-host here on the Comics Aficionados, Doc, the X-Men historian, the Marvel aficionado. How you doing, Doc?
Word. Good morning.
There you go.
I got all the energy today.
Absolutely.
That's
and last but not, God damn it, Pele. Last but not least is their curmudgeon of critical himself, Pele, the retailer from Tennessee.
I'm representing the Hillbillies. And,
the Hillbilly tribe in the house.
And, at a massive dump, I feel 10 pounds lighter, and I'm ready to go. So let's
ding,
hit it.
ding, 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 ding.
Well, before we get into the first topic, which is going to be these blacklists, I do want to say, if you're joining us and you haven't hit the like button yet, what are you waiting for? Annihilate that like button. Let it know that you're here and you want it to go away. So next up, we do have this article that dropped about now that there are not one comic book industry blacklist, there's two. One for, I guess, conservatives, and according to the article, one for more outrageous people on Twitter, more progressive-leaning folks. Now, I've heard that there are multiple people on blacklists, and it isn't always affiliated by political ideology. It's mostly to do with behavior. Doc, were you surprised to hear the details that there might, in fact, be more than one blacklist?
No. When you have someone that just routinely lights pipe bombs and throws them at the comic book industry, while you can use those crazy people from time to time, you also don't invite them into your house for a dinner party. So, no, I'm to a degree, I am definitely not surprised. Look, they're the useful idiots of the comic book industry. So no, I'm not surprised. I mean, there's a reason why none of these people ever actually got real work.
Yeah.
This is somewhat of the elephant in the room, isn't it, Doc? Where everyone's like, well, if Marvel, as long as you think correctly, you can do whatever you want. But that's not the case. A lot of these people that are more outrageous, that are, let's say, problematic to the public image of the publishers, their work kind of dries up.
Yeah, I mean, look, as much as these people might be useful for what, hating the right people and attacking the right people, and being hated by the right people, you're still not gonna. You might reward them with a one shot here or there, but you sure as hell don't give them. And for most of these people, all they got were just like internet head pats.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not surprised. I mean, I even as there's crazy people that I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't mind them attacking these people that I don't like, but I ain't gonna start like going out for a beer with them.
I'm
So
going to take
Dylan-
windy walks in the park with them or anything like that.
So Dylan, you are living proof that these blacklists aren't just for creators; they're actually for customers as well. You got blacklisted from a comic book retailer, right?
Yeah, I got kicked out of my store for not doing nothing that I did in the store for online activity that they found out about, which was kind of creepy. So that was cool. That was an interesting time.
Holy shit! When did that happen?
That happened. What
Years
was that?
ago.
Was like
Dude, that was years
2018.
ago.
That's like
Fuck's
2018. I want to
sakes.
say. Yeah,
Oh,
when I
okay.
yeah, that was all the way back when I made like a video about Jawbreakers, which turned out to be an awful comic book, by the way, but still had the right to be published. So there's that. But yeah, I made a book talking about how it was big and it was going to change things because there's going to be a lot more people doing creator-owned, well, like Kickstarter stuff, which a lot of people did. And like if you searched in Jawbreakers on YouTube at the time, my video was the first one to come up, and so I'm assuming that's how they found me. And I went into my shop to pick up my pull list like I always do. And the shop, it wasn't a terrible shop, but I mainly went there for convenience because it was like a 5-minute walk from where I lived. It was like right there. And when I went to pick up my books, she's like, "I can't serve you. I've been told I can't serve you." I was like, "What? What's going on?" She's like, I can't." I was like, well, "What do you mean?" And she's like, you need to leave. I was like, "Do you not like money?" And she's like, you got to go." And then she like started making a big stink about it, and I just left. And like I recorded like the last like 13 seconds of her just like flipping out at me. And yeah, that was a weird time. I never expected that to happen. That was so weird, especially because I had never really had big conversations with the people at that shop or anything, especially anything political ever. It's just they found out about that I supported a book online, and that's what they freaked out about and kicked me out of the store. So that was really weird.
Hey, if it's any consolation, that comic shop doesn't exist anymore.
Oh yeah, they closed down like super fast after that, like 4 months later, because where they were was like prime real estate. They were in the town center where you get a lot of eyeballs there. So I imagine rent's not cheap, and they got hit hard after that because they weren't too good with customers.
So, Joe, obviously, you are within the comic book industry.
Mhm.
Does all this stuff kind of line up with what you witnessed? As far as are there blacklists? Dylan has he essentially got blacklisted from a comic book shop. Is it that sensitive within the industry?
It's really complicated because 90% of a lot of this drama goes unknown by people involved in the industry, and then the way a lot of this stuff works, it's editorial driven in the sense that editors get to kind of pick and choose who they want to work with. And, editors will talk amongst themselves and be like, "Oh, I have this opening. I was thinking of so-and-so and so-and-so." And, they might be told like, "Oh, I work with so-and-so and they were difficult to work with, or this happened. So maybe don't work with this person." There are absolutely editors, editor-in-chiefs and people like that who, certain creators aren't welcome. There are a lot of public examples of that, like, the John Byrne and Joe Quesada feud, like things like that. So
Mark Waid wasn't
obviously
allowed at DC when Bob Harris was there.
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff like that. So obviously there are people who aren't welcome in those situations. Artists get hit really hard because your style goes out. Your the way you work is out of style, and then they'll just have whole laundry lists of creators that they're like, none of the people from this generation, none of the people with this kind of style. I've probably brought this up before, but Kurt Swan was basically blacklisted after Crisis because they didn't want to look like the old, 50s, 60s, 70s Superman. And that devastated him. Ron Friends was not welcome at Marvel after the Image Revolution happened, and they were like, "You look old and stuffy, so you're out." And then it was just a handful of editors who were loyal to him that were able to bring him on a few projects. But other than that, he wasn't really welcome at Marvel at that point. So yeah, so these things, none of this is new.
Is there an official blacklist like that they hand between companies?
No, there's no official blacklist, but there are editors who might bounce from company to company, which is why you see those sort of things carry from one place, to another. So for example, everyone that Axel didn't want to work with at Marvel, he probably still doesn't want to work with at AWA. Things like that. That's a pretty safe assurance that that's not the case. Like anyone that Bob Harris wasn't working with at Marvel, he didn't want to work with at DC, and now he's out of the picture. But yeah, those people have those sort of things where it's an individual thing. It's never like a company.
Yeah, it's not like an industry standard. It's just the people that have the power.
Yeah. So when Axel leaves, then CB comes in. He'll have his own list of people he doesn't want to work with. But it's never an official list or anything like that. Someone might come up to, someone like CB and be like, hey, I wanted to do this book, and this creator came up with this nice pitch, and he'll be like, oh, yeah, no. And it's not a blacklist, but he has his group of people he doesn't want to work with.
They have people that they've thrown out their card from their Rolodex. And that card's never going to come back into the Rolodex. And it's probably in a second set that says, I'm not working with this asshole. Yeah.
There's that, and there's also the unintentional blacklisting of just all your editors kind of cycle out. No one knows who you are. There's an element of ageism there. And then you can't get work because you don't know any of the people. That happens with these mass layoffs too. A lot of freelancers were, panicking when, they thought like, oh, I know like 2 editors at DC, so like I'm good. Even if one person goes, and then if both of them went, they were like, oh no, I don't even know who to get a hold of. Like those things really, happen. But people bring up specific creators like, Chuck Dixon, for example. But a big part of that is your editors cycle out after a while. You don't know people. They hire new editors, and they have all the people they came up with, and they don't have they don't maybe have the kind of respect for, the older creators, and they also want to bring their people up. So there's not that same level of, availability. But whenever people bring up a creator like him, you can also rattle off, well, it's not like they're giving a bunch of books to Roger Stern, Steve Englehart, David McElhenney, Jerry Conway. There's a lot of creators that also don't align in the same politics, but are also not welcome at a lot of these companies. I guarantee it. Like there are people like Bill Loebs, David McElhenney, Roger Stern, who would probably take work. We've seen David McElhenney came back briefly a few years ago to do some Iron Man stuff. Jerry Conway came back briefly for a little bit of, Spider-Man, Renew Your Vows. I think he was writing before Jody Houser came in. Stuff like that. So these people are there and they're willing to work, but, it turns into like let's celebrate your legacy for like maybe 5 issues and then please stop calling it. So yeah, it's a very complicated situation.
Yeah, they only get brought back for a retirement match.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
So Gevian, obviously you worked for a spell. You worked at Milestone, back in the day during the original incarnation. Was blacklisting something that was, talked about openly, in the offices there, or something that you were aware of?
No, I'm with Joe on this one. I would say like 99% of people just don't know that this is going on. And it was, like I said, I haven't been in the industry working in the industry professionally since probably the mid to late 90s. And a lot of this political stuff, which, I have very little interest in personally, but you do have to acknowledge that it exists because it exists in all areas of life, in business all over the place. It's 2 things for those of our audience who are in their 20s as you start to move into life. 90% of life is showing up. The other part is it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that second one is a very real truism. It's like meritocracy is a myth. People may hire you in the beginning because of your skill set or your experience, but if you don't forge the right relationships in some areas, or if you manage to piss off the wrong people, you will find yourself on the outs very quickly. And so much of it has to do with, some people are saying in the comment, in the chat, it does have to do with ego. It does have to do with personal preference. I've been involved in corporate situations where it's like there's a thing of failing upwards. And all failing upwards means that you have somebody who they're really not good at their job. They really don't know what they're doing. They really don't know what they're talking about. They don't have a good work ethic. They don't deliver the way other people deliver. But because whoever's in charge is comfortable with them, they manage to not only keep their position, but they actually, in many cases, get elevated. So, the blacklist wasn't something that was openly talked about. But, quite frankly, this political tribalism in comic books that exists now wasn't as openly talked about as it is now. Like Chuck Dixon is a favorite creator of mine. I love that. I think it was, I want to say Bane Unleashed was like the last 12-issue miniseries that I saw that he did at DC. I enjoyed that. But it's like the fact that what I'm hearing from the community now is that he's not getting work because he was Comic Gates adjacent. There was a time I thought comics would have been better than that, but apparently not. So yeah, it wasn't a thing. I know. I'm a fool. Full fool.
Oh, you naive man.
That's it.
I mean, there's a reason why all of Brian Bendis's flying monkeys keep getting work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, Doc will appreciate this. My first exposure to it was Devin Grayson. That's when I first started getting inkling something was not all right in Shelbyville.
Yep, because One Page Wade.
That was.
As far as Bendis goes, it's not like Kelly Sue DeConnick has a new series now that Aquaman's over. I haven't heard of Matt Fraction writing anything outside of Sex Criminals and whatever that series he was doing with the what was it?
Manhattan Projects.
Yeah, with the artistic couple, the Terry. I can't remember their names right now, but he's got a couple of indie projects. He's not doing anything with Big Two either. It's not like knowing Bendis is the the keys to the.
No, but it was how they all started getting hired at DC. It's the same way they all started getting hired at Marvel. And when he left, he just took his little flying monkeys with him. They eventually got work, but only until they proved that they couldn't get any sales there either.
It's an interesting. So, Pele, I know obviously you've been around a long time. Yes, it is the Dodsons. Thank you very much, Second Street Marvel. I feel like a moron. Thank you for it's the Dodsons that Matt Fraction has a series with. Pele, you've been around for quite a while. You've inquired into sales and things like this. How long have you been aware of blacklists within the comic book industry?
Honestly, I'm surprised there's just two.
I don't think there's two blacklists. I think people are blacklisted. I don't think they're like, which blacklist is so-and-so on? I think they're just people blacklisted. I don't think there's like...
But yeah, I expect it out is broken and inbred and mafioso type as the comics pros are. Yeah, I would imagine there's probably 1,000 different lists with 10,000 people on it. It's nuts. I mean, and this isn't new. This goes all the way back to the. I mean, it was weird, but it goes all the way back to the late '60s and early '70s that I know of. When you had basically the pro-democracy, pro-capitalism people against the communists, and there was a big communist, grouping as far as independent comics and stuff like that, and they were treated unfairly, in my opinion. I'm not a person of that persuasion, but they were rounded up and just run out of the comics on a rail, and I don't think that was really fair. I mean, you have a right to try to make a living, and now it's kind of the script is flipped, and you've got one side, the progressives, quote unquote, who are doing that to everybody else. It's bizarre. It really is. And it just doesn't surprise me that, you know, it's the same people that have problems with quality too. It's the same people that can't get their work in on time, and it's the same people who can't, you know, play well with others, even people of their own persuasion, are the ones that, you know, perpetuate these lists. So, you know, it doesn't shock me, you know, hey, this person that can't write, you know, they don't want to work with this X, you know, gamer great people, or, you know, Comicsgate or whatever like that, you know, almost like they're making a stink, you know, just so they can distract from the fact that they can't pull their own weight. But, you know, it's...
No, yeah, and Pele's right. I mean, you know, two things. I mean, that's basically, I think at one time, Frank Miller put out there that the whole reason the Comics Code Authority was really created was just to put William Gaines out of business, because they could compete with EC Comics. And he's exactly right. The people, I mean, I'm just talking across the board in business. People will not hire people. I learned at one point in my resume to start downplaying my education, depending on what the job was. Because if you were applying for a certain job and you indicated in any way that you were either more learned than them, more experienced than them, they'll tell you, they'll take that resume and throw that to the side. They're not trying to have somebody coming in and rock the boat or wreck the curve or whatever it may be. So it's just a fact of life. And, you know, other than the EC thing, which I was aware of with Gaines, I just didn't think it ran like this deep into the industry. And these blacklists now, this just sounds like a bunch of nonsense. You know, it's not even based on whether it's talent or not, or being threatened by something. It's just, I don't like you because I don't like you and whatever I think opinion or ideology, whatever it is that you represent. You know, maybe I don't like your cologne. You're on this list now, so it's total nonsense, and it's detrimental to the industry because, you know, even if you look at it from the ageism perspective, it's like there's this thing of institutional knowledge. You have all of these writers. I mean, how do you not have Roger Stern in some way involved at a comic book company? That's criminal. That's criminal with some of the stuff that he's written. The knowledge he could share to the creators that are coming up behind him. But, you know, in our industry, it's almost like, you know, you take the horse out into the back and you figure she's done, and, you know, and put her out of her misery, when it should be the exact opposite. Those guys have a lot to share and to contribute still. So, yeah.
So I need to break in here and say thank you very much to Kenneth Dowling for supporting the channel with the super chat. I knew about Nightwing through Chuck Dixon. His run was great. Is there any way for him to come back? Is he working now? So he did come back for a very short spell on like a Bane miniseries, but for the most part, he's doing crowd-funded comic books now. He had the Expendables book that I think it was funded like a year ago. I think it's finally now going to come out. He's also had several projects with Brett R. Smith. They do a lot of work together. So if you want to support Chuck Dixon and his comic books, you're likely going to have to go to Indiegogo or possibly Kickstarter if you want to do that. But I'm sure that he's back. But
now that he's worked with Meyer, oh God, he's burned every bridge between, you know, himself and any of the big two. You know, that's you're done. You know, that's like one of the five names. If you're even in the same room with them and somebody can prove it, that you're never going to be in comics again. So.
It's a mortal sin of the comic book industry.
It is. You know, it's blasphemy according to their own, you know, church doctrines. So.
What did you want to say there, Joe?
Well, that's the sort of thing that, like, you know, for now, but, you know, people only remember these things for so long too. You know, after a while, depending on what the issue is, people stop caring. Like the same people that were all upset that Mike Mignola shared a like Earthworm Jim picture or that he drew like 6 or so months ago, or Bigfoot. I forget what Doug TenNapel thing he drew. Everyone was upset for like a week, and now a lot of those people are already posting stuff about like, oh, Mike's great and blah blah blah. Like after the Cameron Stewart stuff went down last year, you know, like people are already back to talking about how awesome and progressive that Batgirl run he wrote did, where he aged Barbara down, which makes it worse. You know, like all that stuff. So people have these sort of selective memories. A lot of it is a popularity contest.
Well, as long as
that's just what it is.
Well, as long as Rich Johnston can still have the ear of anyone and Twitter is still, because then it's just a matter of, okay, we'll let you go for right now, and then we just destroy you again whenever we feel like it.
Yeah, but also there are some other creators too, like I could rattle off all these older creators, like no one at Marvel or DC is banging down Mike Grell's door, even though he is more than happy to work. All of Howard Chaykin's stuff for years now has been, an Image or creator-owned stuff.
Mhm.
And no one would accuse Howard Chaykin of being anything close to a right-winger.
Amen.
So you have those things going. A lot of it is,
But
Mhm.
but the reason why is because he hasn't stepped out of line since then. The minute he steps out of line, they just turn around and destroy them all over again.
Well, when
Sure.
you mentioned Mike Mignola, I mean, he. One thing you have to realize with Mike Mignola, though, he has fans that if somebody tries to cancel Mike Mignola, he has fans that will go to their home and beat them half to death. I mean, these people are
sounds
rabid.
like criminals to me.
They're rabid. They're like they're so devoted to him. So about a week, and then they realize, oh God, we got to back off from these people. They're crazy.
Well, you see it with J. Scott Campbell about once a year or so, maybe twice a year. They try to come after the crazies on Twitter, try to come after J. Scott Campbell, but he has the money and the fan base that it doesn't matter.
Yep.
I mean, they can, but a lot of these other creators, they are still living hand to mouth, and so they realize they can't step out of line, or else the actual psychos on Twitter will just destroy them again.
So, Joe, one of the things in that article, we'll kind of start kind of taming this down and move on to another subject, but it's basically that you have this whisper network, and the people that were within it essentially have been blacklisted from the big two, and you're no longer able to work there. Me personally, I am not a big fan of blacklists. Like, if you had a formal blacklist for things, do you think blacklists are healthy if they're there to protect the industry, to protect the shield?
There's no, in this instance, like we were sort of alluding to, there's no actual like written blacklist. Like you don't walk into CB's office and there's a blackboard with names written on it that can't work there. What is good is having shared knowledge that you can, circulate within the team to sort of address certain issues, but professional issues, like be careful with so-and-so, they've never handed in art on time or scripts on time. Be careful about hiring so-and-so.
Don't
they
talk
always
about your contract with this person.
Yeah,
it will go badly.
Yeah, this person always, leaks their NDA. Like that sort of stuff is important for people to keep in mind. Beyond that, I think there is a great deal of it that I was alluding to before that's not, there's no malice. It's that these people, they're either indifferent, they don't care. I think one of the things I noticed when CB took over at Marvel, Larry Hama started getting work again. And I don't necessarily, I don't have any evidence to believe that, Axel didn't like Larry or something like that, but he might not have had a particular affinity for him and it didn't cross his mind. Whereas CB seems like someone who came in and was like, I like Larry Hama, let's figure out, even if we're not giving him a ton of work, let's figure out where we can use this guy. So, I think a lot of it is more what ends up being perceived as blacklisting, I think, is more often either ignorance on younger editors not knowing who to tap, or just indifference from the higher ups being like, I don't care, who cares? Like, this isn't going to sell a book. What's going to sell a book is, J.J. Abrams' kid. So,
and 87 variants.
Yes.
Yeah. So we do have a super chat from Dark Admiral March Hare. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Unrelated to the topic, but wanted to give an update on my Bronze Age hunt. Just put down a payment on a very fine plus copy of Iron Fist 14 this week. Pele, is that a good investment?
Sweet. Yeah, first appearance of Sabretooth. You can't go wrong there. And it's a book that really hasn't exploded along with all the other keys. So as long as it's not slabbed already, it doesn't have like the slab tax already applied to it, you probably did really well there. I think that he's going to have a place in the not too distant future in X-Men again, and so yeah, I think it's a good pick. Good job.
There you go. Congratulations, Dark Admiral March Hare, and please keep us updated on your Bronze Age hunt. Always love hearing about people picking up comic books. Does anyone have a last word to talk about Comic Book Blacklist before we start moving on? We got a ton of topics this week.
Well, I'll just say this. Well, if I can real quick, to Dark Admiral, actually your comment is related to this topic because Larry Hama's actually doing a pretty good series right now that I'm enjoying, which is Iron Fist Heart of the Dragon, and he did have a lot to do with the early formation of Iron Fist back in Marvel premiering of the book. So just want to throw that little fun fact out there. Go ahead, Doc.
I will say that don't just block Alex DeCampi now. It's for your health.
Yes. Toxic, crazy, insane person.
Lunatic that can't sell anything.
Yep.
But can ruin your day.
Well, that was what was interesting about that in that article, too, was, there's people in their contracts that say, I will not work with Alex DeCampi. I don't want to be in the same room as Alex DeCampi.
I think that part wasn't true.
But I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think it ever ended up actually in the contract. I think it was when it was floated.
I bet people did lose their minds, though. From what
I can guarantee that if it got floated through the room, they say, okay, well, if you do this, then I want this. These are the requirements I'm going to have to change my contract. If you do this, if you don't, then I don't need those requirements.
So I don't know about the DeCampi clause. That part kind of felt a little bit far-fetched, but I would imagine a lot of people said, I need some protections because of the reputation that created. So let's move on. Obviously that was a hot topic. Let's move on to the next one. This one was very interesting. For so long, Lunar distribution has essentially been exclusive to DC Comics. Obviously, at first it was UCS and Lunar, and then UCS went away, and it's just been Lunar for such a long time. But now Scout Comics is finally signed on the dotted line, and they are a distributor with Lunar's comics as well. They're not exclusive to Lunar. You can get Scout Comics through Lunar. You can get them through Diamond Comics. Jermaine, we obviously talked about this quite a while ago when Lunar and UCS were brought online. What are your thoughts on this? I think this is very exciting news, and hopefully it kind of opens a floodgate.
Oh, yeah. Publishers, sign. That's all I can say. There is nothing good came from having Diamond, having basically, as far as the government was concerned, a virtual monopoly. Just on apparently the packaging alone in terms of the books. Now we can all pay near mint prices for actual near mint books from DC as opposed to before getting these fines and very fines that you still wouldn't be to pay $3.99 for. It's like going into McDonald's and getting a cold Big Mac. No, that's not what I'm paying for. And so on and so forth. So I think now my only thing is I want it to be a 3-horse race. So I was very disappointed when UCS dropped out of it. So I'm hoping that another distributor will be brought in, but I think that's going to require Marvel kind of showing the same foresight and vision that DC did by whatever opportunity they were afforded bringing on Lunar and the UCS in the first place. But I think the more competition, the merrier. Is going to be better for everybody around. And, you need 3. You need at least 3 to keep the other 2 honest. So, because other than that, I forget what the term is formally in economics, but you can't have 2 competitors in the market and they still end up almost operating as a monopoly anyway. But I think it's great news that Scout Scout is signing with Lunar, and I hope other publishers do the same.
Mhm.
Yeah, the industry needs it.
So Pele, you're a retailer. Was this music to your ears? Are you going to order your Scout comics through Diamond or Lunar?
Oh, definitely Lunar, just because they arrive in one piece most of the time. But no, I expected it. In fact, I kind of thought it would happen a little bit sooner with a different publisher. But there's a couple others that are going to be coming on board with Lunar very quickly. So from what I hear, and you know, there's going to be some in the top 5 publishers that are going to be going on with Lunar. So you know, it's not. This is not the end, and I'm not going to say it's going to be the end for Diamond, but I think, you know, it's a situation where, you know, they're really going to have to tighten up their game. They're going to have to, you know, sharpen things up, or they're in worse trouble than they were, you know, 6 months ago. So it's not going to take much to damage, you know, their precarious house of cards that they've got over there. But it's good for everybody that there's more distribution. So
That's exactly the point I was going to make. This can only be a step in the right direction, because Diamond's only focus is comic shops. Maybe Lunar decides it wants to try to put product in other places. Obviously, Diamond had no interest in that.
Diamond has their Diamond Books distributions, which is for bookstores.
Yeah,
but it's like it's a subdivision.
it's a little pissant subdivision. Yeah,
it's bookstores that you get stuffed onto the magazine shelf with poor product placement. So good job, I guess.
I cannot begin to explain how bad it was with Diamond toward the end when they were the only distributor. The quality, like Gevian was talking about, I mean, very fine was sometimes, you know, beyond reach for Diamond. Doc's seen it too, haven't you, Doc?
Oh God, yes. But my point here, though, is that getting more distribution is probably it's not a death blow to Diamond by any stretch. Scout Comics entirely disappearing tomorrow, much less leaving and splitting their stuff, wouldn't have even the slightest impact on Diamond. You know, hell, half the indie publishers vanishing tomorrow, it wouldn't really have any impact on Diamond. So this isn't a you know, make or break thing by any stretch for Diamond, but getting more publishers that are with multiple distribution means that there's a chance of growing the distribution channels, and that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, and Marvel's got to make the jump at some point. Until Marvel makes the jump, until Marvel gets out of exclusivity with Diamond, yeah, you're still effectively in the same situation. So, yeah, I agree with that.
What are your thoughts, Joe? Is this has got to be healthy? Do you expect more independent comic publishers to jump on board with Lunar?
Yeah, I mean, kind of what Pele was talking about before. It's almost shocking that that this didn't happen sooner, but I get it. You know, these contracts probably take a long time to get into motion and set everything up. I think this has the potential to give Scout a little bit of a boost before other publishers join in, because if you're looking through Lunar and you know, there's only 2 publishers to pick from, it's a lot easier to search, you know, Scout than it would be. Yes. So, you know, and there are some solid things in their back catalog, like Atlantis Wasn't Built for Tourists by Kalicki, you know, Long Lost, which is a very like Silent Hill kind of mini series that was it Matthew Ehrman and Lisa Sturl did. Metal Shark Bros, which was a successful Kickstarter, is on there. There's a lot of interesting stuff in that back catalog. So I'm hoping that them moving to Lunar will give people more of an opportunity to check some of that out, and then that might attract more of these small publishers to move over. I think you get those diminishing returns. Like when you're the 10th small publisher to sign on there, you're not getting that same boost as, Scout would have, but, we'll see.
Real quick, I do want to say thank you to you, Iron, for supporting the channel. I'm sorry I do not speak, Bunny's ball square, but I'm sure it's hilarious.
I think
Space
he's talking
Jam.
about, Lola Bunny Space Jam 2 is what I think he's referring to.
Yeah.
With that
Boobs.
tombstone.
Basketball boobs.
You can't have those in there anymore. That was the problem.
Oh, there you go. This is me. Whew. I saw Lola Bunny on Twitter, but I didn't look into it because
I don't.
I like Space Jam, but not all that big of a deal to me. But thank you for supporting the channel. But we do support Lola Bunny.
Yes, we do.
All right, what are your thoughts on this one, Dylan?
Competition's always a good thing. If you look at it, it's so weird that Diamond had a monopoly for so long. That's just so odd that there's no competition. This will finally make them step up, or at least it should if they're smart, because for years they had no reason to. If they sucked, well, where are you going to go? You have nowhere else to go to get the big two, to where now at least there's some options for DC and now Scout, and I think more people are going to sign on, and I think that's a great thing, because it's just so weird that there was no competition for so long, but now we're finally sort of out of that dark age, and I think Marvel would be smart to eventually look into someone else other than Diamond, because all I ever hear about is everyone complaining about Diamond. My shop, personally, I remember so many times they would get a whole batch of comics where just the corners were all just bent, and there was nothing he could do about it. Diamond was just tough luck.
Mm-hmm.
So, Joe, in theory, let's say Marvel ends their exclusivity with Diamond. They open up and they offer a Lunar option and a Diamond option through their distribution. Would that be the death blow for Diamond? Do you think enough shops are fed up with Diamond enough where they would just move over and almost order exclusively through Lunar?
I don't necessarily think so, because it's... I'm trying to think of the exact numbers, but it is something where 500 of the shops, maybe less, make up 80 to 85%.
It's way less than that. It's more it's under 100.
It might be 100, yeah. Whatever the number is, or it was 500 is 95%. It was something like that. One of the publishers were telling me a while back. So, I don't think so. It certainly wouldn't happen overnight. If it did, that would mean that there were a lot of other problems at Diamond, and that was just, the straw that broke the camel's back, instead of that being the cause of that all coming undone. But clearly there needs to be innovation going on and in distribution. And I mean, we've heard those stories, people talking about how Diamond's still using really old point of sale systems and old software and things like that. So
competition, you don't have to improve.
Exactly. So this could either be they're going to improve, or they're going to sit around being we haven't tried anything and we're all out of ideas. So
real quick, I do need to thank you very much. I believe it's David Gagnon for the super chat all the way from Canada. I love listening to you guys talk. Well, we love talking for you. That's why we do this each and every Saturday right here on Comics Aficionados on Thinking Critical YouTube. And if you haven't hit the like or the thumbs up like button, what are you waiting for? It's time to like this. We're having a good conversation here.
And I'm not even going to make fun of his currency today.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Canadian's great. Love the fans look at border. Absolutely.
It's America's
all right, Doc, so have you noticed all of the smaller publishers moving away from Diamond Books and going to Simon & Schuster?
Yeah, I have noticed that you're going to start seeing this. I wouldn't say it's going to be an exodus, but it's going to be a realignment within the comic industry. You're going to see people deciding to start looking outside the box. Conventional wisdom, it in some ways is getting challenged, because conventional wisdom for the past 25 years in the comic industry has been, you make comic book, You go to Diamond. Diamond put comic book in comic book store, and that was how you expected to make your money. Now people are, after with Lunar showing up and DC of all companies being the one with the balls to actually make a move, you're going to see, it's a follow the leader industry. It always has.
It really is.
And so now DC actually had the balls to do something that in the past it would have been a Marvel move to do that. Now it probably would have blown up spectacularly in their faces, because when Marvel does that, that's what happens. They're fucking Wile E. Coyote. But so you're going to have a lot of the smaller companies that see that that DC made this move. It didn't blow up their entire company. The damage they're doing to their company is entirely self-inflicted right now, has nothing to do with their distribution. And they're deciding to get creative with their thinking as well. Simon & Schuster, Lunar, you're going to start seeing other book distributors get more into the comics. They had already done Scholastic, but you're going to be looking, and you're going to probably even see them start trying to approach, news, like the magazine distributors. And now you might not get any success out of there. There might not be any traction, but I guarantee you're going to see some, 5 through 10 level publisher try to consider going to whoever in the hell distributes fucking People magazine and Rolling Stone at this point.
All right, so
it was a gangster. Yeah,
you're starting your own comic book publishing line. I imagine distribution is one of the things that you've had to investigate and set up, as far as how you're going to distribute. We know Bad Idea is doing their own distribution. How are you guys thinking about doing it?
Oh, for me, we're looking at self-distribution, like what Bad Ideas doing. Definitely have reached out to Lunar. Definitely still considering Diamond, because it's not like Diamond isn't in the business of comic book distribution. It's just they got competition now, and yeah, that's what it is. Everybody's going to start thinking outside the box. Crowdfunding, just with that alone, and just reaching that market. The thing with what DC does, when I was a younger man, we would have called it was a gangster move. It was just a gangster move. They saw an opportunity, they took it, they went, like Pele, like Doc said, balls to the wall, brought 2 in and just said, this is how it's going to work from now on. And they cracked this thing open, and hopefully it will never go back to what it was again. And the other thing I think is, and I also agree with Doc, I think hopefully it will get these distributors, especially if you get a third one in, that because now the direct market piece has a little bit more competition, they will actually go into other markets and get some other retail accounts, and not only to increase their business, but to get the product out there more. So yeah, for me, it's definitely direct distribution, particularly through the crowdfunding thing, Lunar, digital, which is the other thing that no one has really cracked yet, in terms of, I think Perch did all of us a great service when he did this video by clearly just saying it's 2 different customers. It's not, this whole, my thing with the whole industry is that for the last 25 years, ever since the 90s, when Marvel did whatever they did, there's just been a myopism. It's just, no one has had any big ideas or thought to do anything differently. And I think the one thing that's happened with the pandemic is that now people are realizing they got to start doing things different. But DC definitely has shown that that stink from when Marvel pulled that crap with Heroes World, it didn't have to be like that. And that was just Marvel. And if Marvel doesn't watch it, and honestly, if Marvel doesn't watch it, I think DC, even with some of the things that they're going through and all that, there is a chance that they're just going to be a better publisher overall in terms of the business part of it. Maybe not the editorial creative stuff, but in terms of the business part of it, it feels like DC might leave Marvel behind at some point. Because Marvel, to me, they haven't done anything. I haven't seen it's just nothing. It's nothing in terms of where they're going to take this industry for the next 25 years. It's like, this is DC making moves, moving and shaking.
Well,
so, yeah.
I think that you've got a good point there. What I fear, though, is that from keeping my ear to the ground, listening to customers and stuff like that, I talk to them all the time. Every time I'm in there, I'm always talking to customers because I want to know what they're thinking. And they are not happy, for the most part, they are not happy with the direction DC's going as far as the future state and the some of their ideas, for characters in the future and the different, the Justice League and stuff like that, and some of the creators attached. And they're not happy. And they're like, well, if this is going to be it is going forward, then, my pull list is going to be, for DC, is going to be slashed. And, and it's like, I know that they're doing a lot of things, and you can tell that they're trying, but it almost seems like, they think that any direction's better than no direction at all. But if you're going backwards in terms of the existing comic base, then, is that better than kind of being cautious? I don't know. It's...
Oh yeah, and I'm clearly distinguishing. Let me be clear. I'm clearly distinguishing in terms of what they're doing in their business in terms of operations, as opposed to what they're doing content-wise. I agree with you on that one. I think with the content piece, and we had talked about this before, it's like it's the right strategy in terms of lining everything up across the different multimedia platforms. But in terms of the content itself, is like blah. It's like blah. Yeah, it's like that's that's the scary part. I agree.
That kind of leads us right into our next topic. Now, Larry's comments is saying everything DC put out this week was killer. It was 5-star. I would disagree on that one. Obviously, we got Infinite Frontier #0 and the beginning of the Infinite Frontier era at DC Comics. All right, Dylan. So I imagine you read Infinite Frontier #0, right?
Yes, I did.
A lot of changes as far as the future of DC Comics. Were you impressed? Did it sell you on the future of this new DC era?
No, it didn't. But, man, just Future State's been a mess in general with everything that's going on. I have some faith in Joshua Williamson, though, so at least there's that. Like, that's kind of what's keeping me hanging on with Infinite Frontier. Because Zero wasn't terrible, but it wasn't like Rebirth #1. It wasn't like that or even close. It's just, man, I don't know what DC's gonna, because they're working towards a lot of Future State stuff, and they're putting a lot of Future State creators on books as well. So I don't know exactly how that's going to go. And this is just, man, I don't know what they're going to be doing here, because I've talked to a lot of people. A lot of people are not fans of Future State or what's going on, and there's been a lot of huge disappointment. It just feels like they didn't really even know what they were doing with Future State for the most part as well. They're like, here's a 48-page book that you're going to pay $8 for, $9 if you want a variant cover, and the person on the cover, you get 19 pages of the 48. The rest is backup stories you didn't want. Have fun with that. And now we're going to introduce that into action and Detective Comics. So you get your Superman story a little bit, and then as well as that, you get Lois and Jimmy and everyone else thrown in the back. It's just, man, DC's in a weird spot right now.
I agree. Before we get back to this, I do want to say thank you very much to Kenneth Dowling for helping support the channel with the Super Chat. The comic industry is Wile E. Coyote, who's still buying products from Acme when none of their stuff works. So also, good one, Doc. There you go, Doc. You liked your analogy. Basically, Marvel is holding a stick of Acme Dynamite that Wile E. Coyote, I guess, is willing to buy from. I don't know.
The whole comics industry is Wile E. Coyote, and customers are fucking the Roadrunner.
Elusive.
We're elusive to them. They can't figure out, and instead they just want to try to kill us.
Perhaps.
Good analog. Yep.
$8 Batman comic. So thank you very much to Kenneth Dowling for chiming in there. So I don't know, there were some big changes. I don't know, Joe. You read Infinite Frontier, right?
I read the number 0 there. Yeah.
What did you think of? At least we got Wally back. This is essentially what you put up for our video on Monday and saving Wally West. You're like, just forget about it. Just put him in there.
Yeah, we recorded that on Monday. I want to say so. I didn't get a chance to read Infinite Frontier 0. So my pitch was just forget everything that happened. Just
act like it didn't happen.
It's all been so awful. It's not worth trying to come up with a good reason why Wally is a horrible murderer, and just be like, oh, it's Wally's back. And
Who-
so is Roy.
Who let Dan Didio back into DC?
Apparently, they let Joe in. Those are his pitches.
It was just like, it's so awful. Just forget it. Let's just act like it never happened and move on. And I'm glad that they probably had a few meetings on that and were like, actually, the best thing we can do is just act like it never happened.
People hate it so much. Why even undo it? Let's just move on.
Yeah, they found Wally at the bottom of Jamaica Bay, and it's all fine.
Oh, man, okay.
Thank you very much to Lane Kramer for supporting the channel with the super chat. So in 12 to 18 months from now, what will the X-Men line look like? I read Hellions and now Children of the Atom. Will it be a condensed line or more than 12? Doc, are we going to have a condensed line of X-Men comics in 12 to 18 months or more than 12 comics?
Oh, God, this is a hard one because...
Isn't it crazy that less than 12 is considered condensed?
Yeah, well, no. I think he's asking which way is it going to go? Is it going to implode or are they just going to keep growing it regardless of sales? And I can't figure that out right now because I think they're going to just keep growing it.
So
And they're going to ignore, like, whatever, sales be damned on this. They're going to just keep growing the fucking line. And to get the whole... to follow through with whatever their plan was, regardless of whether or not anyone's actually interested in buying it or reading it. Because they look, hey, Vita needs at least 7 more books and Tinny needs 12. Come on. We can't, if you're not getting 19 books a month in the X line from Vita and Tinny, and then another maybe 6 to 8 from clowns like Generic Duggan and Cy Spurrier. What are you doing with the X books? You're not using it to its full potential then.
Well, at least it's nice to see that you're so bullish on the future of the X-Men there, Doc. Obviously, we will get into that a little bit later. That's another future topic. I do want to say thank you very much to Lane Kramer. Did I interrupt you, Jermaine? I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say with these cover prices, the way they're going with it, they could actually pull it off. But because it's like they're extracting so much cash out of people with some of this stuff. There's like you only need about 500 people to buy these books to begin with. So it's like maybe that's what it is. It's like
there's only like 2 books that were really worth their cover price. I mean, you had Dark Detective and Swamp Thing, and that was it. The rest of them were like, oh my god, that's. Like people were like grinding their teeth and going ooh, holding their nose while they bought them. So
this is
look, as long as they stick to the. Oh yeah, no. It's like as long as they stick to the. I mean, I didn't get up Infinite Frontier. And I ain't gonna lie, it was because it was $5.99. I don't care how many pages it was. Even Berserker #1, I was kind of like, but then I looked at the solicitations for the ones. Okay, they go back to $3.99. But it's like I'm drawing the line at $3.99, man. It's like it's like if they creep this thing up to $4.99 and up, I just don't. I just it's like they're crowdfunding without the crowdfunding. It's like that's literally what they're doing. They're trying to get these cover prices up enough that basically they know about 500 or 1,000 people are buying these books. So we could just get them to do $6.99 without actually having to do the campaign for the money. Then we're good to go for the next 5 to 10 years, and that's just what it feels like. And I tell everyone to resist. That's my call to action.
What was the reception out at the comic shop for Infinite Frontier #0? Did people like the new direction? Did they like the changes?
Well, we ordered. I think it was 100 copies, and I thought I'd over-ordered, and then I realized by yesterday that I'd really over-ordered. So, I think it's probably like 60% of them left. And
so you ordered more copies of Chasing the Dragon than Infinite Frontier #0 and actually sold more of that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Chasing the Dragon exploded. That was, we put it up front and center as far as our pick of the week. And boy, it sold. That was a monster. I'm trying to get more copies of it. But, Infinite Frontier, people are like, oh, okay. The only people that were buying that are people that really like where DC is going in the first place. So
there you go. Shocking. So Dylan, what do you think about these changes? Obviously we've seen in Earth 2 that Alan Scott has been gay in Earth 2 for quite a while. In Green Lantern 750, they certainly were hinting at the fact that Alan Scott might have been had some tendencies as far as his Earth Zero character. Now that it's confirmed, did you like the way they handled it in the Infinite Frontier Zero issue?
I thought it was handled all right. I'm not someone that has a huge love for Alan Scott. I don't hate the character, but I'm kind of indifferent on him. So whatever they do with Alan Scott, I don't really care that much. I was really happy to see Arsenal back, even though there's not really any explanation. But I love Roy, and I'm happy he's back. And I think he presents some sort of Titans storytelling opportunities. Not he's back, and Darkseid's back again. But they kind of do that like every 5, 6, 7 years of Darkseid, where he disappears, and they're like, Darkseid's back again. So they're doing that. So I'm excited to see what they do with Darkseid.
So Jeff Stout, thank you so much for being very generous supporting the channel. $20 super chat. The original Alan Scott is gay. It's something that kills me. Why wasn't Obsidian angry? All through Infinity Incorporated JSA, him and his father had to learn to accept each other. So he put his son through all that for nothing. BS. What do you think about that, Joe? Was that executed well? Does it line up with the history of Alan Scott and Earth Zero?
It lines up with the history of these reboot events where we act like nothing happened before it.
Nothing matters.
I mean, if you're gonna, this is the same book where they just introduce Wally again, and they're just like, Wally, you're the Flash.
You shouldn't be in prison. You didn't murder anybody.
You're great. We're gonna figure this out. Don't you worry, Wally. And this is also the same issue that just had Roy Harper just like walking around being like, I'm alive.
Not sure I'm alive.
Like he might as well have just looked at the reader and been like, "Your guess is as good as mine," and just like kept walking down the road.
I'm back.
So,
hey, they did it once and got media attention. Why not do it again?
I know, right?
This time get more media attention because you're doing it in the real universe and not an Elseworlds universe.
No, the linear verse, not the real universe.
The
linear verse.
No, it's not the linear verse. We're in the Omniverse, and within the Omniverse, there is a linear verse, but we might not be in the linear verse right now. It's more complicated than that.
We're probably in the overall Omniverse, which is one part of the multiverse. So, don't make this sound confusing.
It's an infinite possibility.
Which is wrapped in hyper time.
I just want the llama verse where there's llama versions of all of the characters. I want to see the green llama,
Absolutely.
and super llama,
Fat llama, absolutely.
Be great.
So, Joe, I know there were some people in the viewer comments on my video that I did reviewing Infinite Frontier #0, comparing the Alan Scott, coming out to his children, similarly to what happened to Iceman over at X-Men. Obviously, that's not a direct comparison. It was Iceman. That was Jean Grey. Did she potentially manipulate his mind using her powers?
Yes.
Possibly.
Yes.
Doc, shut up! I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Joe. I'm talking to a writer. So there are people making the comparison, and I don't think it's not like the exact same thing, but I can see where he says, this entire time, I was married to two women, obviously being the mother of his children. And he's like, but I loved them in my mind, but I never really loved them. And they're like, man, there's, back in the day, they used a lot of thought balloons. Like this was never evident. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they had left that part of the dialogue out, I think it would have been more effective. But throwing that in there has to make you call into question everything that you invested and read in prior to on that character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the comparison that works with Iceman here, I do think it feels like they all sat around and were looking through characters that are like, can we pick a character who, like, on paper is important, but people don't actually care that much about, that we can kind of make this sound like a big deal, but it's not? Because, like, when they did Iceman,
New 52.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's exactly what they did in New 52. And that, I think that's more, they're just carrying it over from the New 52. But picking Alan Scott in general, I think very similar to Iceman, in the case of Iceman, it was like, all right, well, we want an original member, but it can't be one of the like really important ones. So like, who's a member that we've never really written right for long stretches of time? Because Iceman has gone through like, how many times has it turned into like, oh, he's one of the most powerful mutants ever, and then he slacks off again, and then he is the most powerful mutant, or he has more potential than anyone, and then he slacks off again, and they don't know what to do with him. So it seems like they kind of like figured out, okay, him, and same thing with Alan Scott. It's like, well, he's a Green Lantern, so people think that's important, but he's like one of the least important Green Lanterns. So yeah, let's do that. Like,
he's a Green Lantern that's not even really a Green Lantern.
Yes.
Yeah. So interesting stuff. Thank you so much to Jeff Stout for supporting the channel. It's very generous of you. We've also got David Gagnon again with another Canadian super chat with Duty Exchange. Comic books, DC books are $10 in Canada. I am not surprised. I have a similar issue here in the Philippines. New comics are at a minimum 20% above cover price, but then I also have to pay for them to be shipped to me because there are no comic shops anywhere here. But in Manila, here in the Philippines, the prices absolutely add up. I don't know. What do you say about that, Dylan? Do you feel bad for David? Are you going to drive north of the border into Canada and start getting your comic books so you can show solidarity with David?
Nope, that's rough, man. But I'm not gonna do that. It's dumb how expensive. Because I got because at my shop they only had a variant cover for one of Future State books that I got, so it was $9, and I only cared about the main story, which was like 18 pages, and the rest of it was just all these stories I didn't care about. I was like, man, $9 for like 18 pages of what I wanted. It's like, but all the backup stories. I saw some of the people in the chat saying they like the backup stories. There are some good backup stories, but if you have these characters that you want to have their own stories, give them their own book. They're not on the cover for a reason. You're putting Superman and Batman on the cover because they sell. Like, I like the Katana story in the first Batman thing, but with the Outsiders, I thought it was cool. That being said, I did not buy that book for that story at all. Give it its own separate thing instead of sort of hiding it in there and being like, hey, pay $9 for this and you get a bunch of stuff you didn't even ask for. Have faith in these characters that they can sell and give them their own stories. It's annoying.
I agree with you. So thank you.
I highly recommend that what Dylan does for the future is what he does is he buys comic books in America and then he smuggles them across the border. Like a comic coyote?
Comic mule.
Yeah.
So I do want to say thank you very much to David. That is a wonderful mustache. And you, sir, are a true gentleman. Thank you for supporting the channel. We have this one from 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser. $10 super chat. Thank you so much. This panel rules. Thank you for making my long drive enjoyable. Well, I have very good news for you, sir. Just recently, my Thinking Critical podcast is coming online. There's a little bit of content on there. I haven't been added to all the other the podcast networks, but you will every Sunday. You will get your Comics Aficionados. I'm also going to have a couple other shows that are available weekly. And if you're on long drives, you won't even have to have your YouTube. You can just download it and play it right there in your car from your favorite podcast distributor. So that should be very good, and I hope everyone is getting ready for that. So that is very exciting news. Along with Comics by Perch, he has the same thing available. And thank you very much for supporting the channel. 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser. That is a fantastic handle, sir.
I love it.
Thank you very much to Kenneth Dowling for supporting the channel. Something I've wondered about. After the results of Death Metal, Future State, and now Infinite Frontier, does all this ruin the legacy of Crisis on Infinite Earths and the reason it was created? I don't know, Pele. Does this destroy Crisis on Infinite Earths?
What in the crap? What in the hell happened?
I don't know.
I don't know. Everybody started laughing. I don't know what was going on.
I think Gevian really wants to answer this question.
Oh, Gevian, jump in there, man.
Go ahead, Gevian. That's what I was wondering.
Man, it does not ruin his legacy. It cements it. It cements it. Crisis on Infinite Earths was a mini-series, a maxi-series that was designed to solve a problem that did not exist. Nobody cared about streamlining the DC multiverse. That was a bunch of guys in the corporate offices in DC, much like what Iceman and Alan Scott saying, man, what can we do to make ourselves relevant here or fix a problem that nobody cares about? Crisis on Infinite Earths, and the sad part about Crisis on Infinite Earths was that as soon as they did it, everybody then immediately proceeded to unravel the exact same linear verse that they just finished setting up. And so we got 0 Hour, and it's just like event after event. And it was bad, and I would say it was bad enough you were doing the events, but then the events had to become all these continuity, status quo, correcting nonsense that is just basically like, dude, and now we're at the point now. So this, what was it? Generations Forge has now exposed for all time why we never had to bother with something like Crisis to begin with, because it was always the linear verse. It was always just Batman realizes he's like 500 years old and he's married like 5 different women, and sometimes they come back to him 20 years younger than they were the last time you remember. Oh my God, that it doesn't ruin the legacy; it cements it, because it should have never happened in the first place. Okay.
If there's one thing that comics is great at, it's inventing problems that don't exist so they can fix them, and ignoring the problems that they do have and pretending they don't exist.
Well, of course.
They're in the job of fiction, so why the hell not?
It's never even the second or third order effects that really screw them over. It's like the fourth and fifth order effects that happen like 2 or 3 years down the line. They're like, oh yeah, we totally screwed ourselves over with this, didn't we?
Okay, now Wes, you were talking about the results of Death Metal Future State Infinite Frontier. My favorite villain came out on top, so I'm happy. You know, I'm a massive Darkseid fan. I like Darkseid as a villain.
Oh, I thought you were about to call Wonder Woman your favorite villain. I was like, that is a bold statement, sir.
Well, no, Captain Marvel is my favorite.
That remains to be seen. But yeah, I really liked the way they brought Darkseid out to the fore at the very end there. You know, I like him as a villain.
The body diaper he was wearing from John Romita Jr.?
No, I don't really care for that. It's kind of John Romita Jr. has problems. You know, maybe he should go take a. He needs to go to the Joe Kubert school apparently. But he's fallen off the horse from where he was back in the 90s. But I'm a big Darkseid fan. I was kind of stunned that the group that they called the Quintessence just got nuked. You know, just like in one page, it's like, okay, all 5 of these characters are dead. Like, oh my God! You know, it's like, you know, and this is like the Phantom Stranger, and you know, it's just all these guys are just gone now. And at least the Spectre got out. You know, maybe he kind of says, something's about to happen here. I better shag ass out of this place. So he took off before, you know, the slaughter happened. But yeah, I mean, it's wild. And
somebody just called him Diaper Side.
Yeah.
Good description.
But yeah, I mean, he was a baby just a few seconds before that, wasn't he, or something? But you know, it wasn't too much longer since he was a baby. But yeah, it's great, and I think it does. I think Gervain's right. It cements it. You know, this is just kind of. We'll have to see where this goes now, but good God,
see you in 4 years.
I know it.
See you in 4 years. Yeah, that's right. See you in 4 or 5 years.
It looks like Darkseid may have found the anti-sales equation.
There you go.
No.
Thank you very much to Kenneth Alec for helping support the channel. Very generous of you. We've also got David Gagnon once again. Even outside the USA, most crowdfunded comics are $60 plus. That is 100% correct. Shipping for a 22-page comic book here to the Philippines, unless you're doing it from Europe. And I have supported some crowdfunding comics in Europe. If it comes from the US, it's $35. It's absolutely insanity. It doesn't matter what the weight is. It's just because of the dimensions. So it sucks.
Yeah. Wait, do you guys really love comics this much?
Dude, well, it's even worse for Wes because it may not even show up.
Well, might be like 6 months late,
Like
or it
your
might not show
YouTube
up.
pin.
Yeah, well, that showed up 10 months late. Let's not get into that again. I'm going to get sad.
But what it comes down to is postage coming out of the United States is absurd. But you can buy garbage from China on like the Wish app for like 8 cents.
I bought a deep cycle marine battery for like my boat, and it was like $20 for the battery and like $8 shipping. How do you ship a 50-pound battery, a 50-pound battery for $8 halfway across the world? It's like
No goddamn, it's absurd.
Yeah, it is absurd. So I feel your pain, David. I am in the same boat, and that's why if you don't provide a digital option, I can't even consider supporting most crowdfunded books right now. So thank you so much for supporting the channel. We've also got Brian with the Y. Are blockchain art and art crypto collectibles a fad or the future? If you don't know what I'm talking about, research NFT non-fundable tokens. Adam Kubert sold a unique Spider-Man NFT for $25,000. Pele, you are the cryptocurrency guy as far as I know. Is this the future?
I think that yes, but I want to make an important distinction here. I do think that this is part of the future in collectibles. However, I want everybody to take a deep breath, take a time out here, because the pricing is out of control right now.
Yeah.
Back off a bit. Don't get into these early NFTs. You know, there's going to be a lot of stuff exploding out of the market because people see all the money to be made. Comic creators are starting to get on board in massive numbers. You know, take a deep breath. Unless there's just something you can't live without, you know, just chill and wait until this calms down and the pricing reaches the appropriate scale. Because right now everybody thinks that these NFTs are Bitcoin. And they're going to do what Bitcoin did. And no, they're not. They are interesting. I do see that there's a future for this, but you know, we're talking about it's at least 1 or 2 or more orders of magnitude higher than it should be.
The technology for this is what actually may make digital comics like an actual functional possible future. That will not entirely, you know, the transition away from print comics, so that you don't lose the 70% of your audience that you would lose if you eliminated print comics today. Like, so that you can actually keep some of that collector market, but you need to have it at a reasonable price and everything. But the technology may make digital comics an actual viable future.
So it is part of the future. I would bet on it. I would bet real hard currency that this is going to be part of the future. But you know, chill, relax, watch to see where it goes. You know, don't jump in with both feet with what's going on right now.
And also remember, Ryan with the Y and the rest of the viewers, this is just Pele's opinion. If you go in, you know, you can listen to them or not. These are not, you know, we're not telling you what to do with your money. But thank you so much for joining the channel.
I'm a private investor. I'm not a legal or financial expert here. So
I'd also err on the side of caution, because if Kings of Leon are the first band to utilize this can't be that cool.
The only thing that would have made it worse is if it was Coldplay.
All right. Nothing bagging on Kings of Leon. Man, that was not nice. Thank you very much to Brian with the Y for supporting the channel. We do have one final super chat right now. This panel does rule. Thanks for making this happen every week, Wes. Also, Pele. Who's snorting? Was that Pele?
No, that was not me. Dylan.
Dylan, is that you?
No.
It's Doc.
It's not me. Seriously.
It was Dylan.
This panel rules. Apparently, you're someone's spirit animal, Pele. Can you believe that?
That's fine. I can endorse that.
Somebody's spirit animal is like a, I don't know, like a salty turtle.
A broken down curmudgeon 50-year-old guy. Okay, cool. There you go.
Congratulations, Aaron B. You are the one. Apparently. And thank you so much for supporting the channel. Absolutely love it. Also, if you haven't, you know, given us a thumbs up for this video yet, please do, and let people know that we're having a great conversation here. Now let's move on to the next topic. We're a little bit behind schedule. Hopefully we'll be able to get back on it. We've got a new Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow series coming out of Infinite Frontier in June. Tom King is on it. And I'll tell you, I said this was a great idea, and I was told I was a shill. They said, oh, you're now making a little money off of comic books on your channel. You're shilling for the big two. No. I don't particularly care about Supergirl. So if you want to put Tom King on Supergirl, go for it. I think that's a great place to put him. He's not going to destroy Superman, Batman. He probably can't do anything to the Justice League there. What say you, Dylan? Is this a good place to put Tom King on the Supergirl series that's apparently moving her towards her future state Kara Zor-El Woman of Tomorrow series?
I agree with you. I do not really care about Supergirl. I'm a huge Superman fan. Supergirl's always been a character that I just have never been the biggest fan of. So putting Tom King here, who knows? Maybe he'll do something. Also, we know he does much better with miniseries than he does ongoing, so that's good. And Supergirl is a character that hasn't really found her footing as of late. So maybe Tom King could do something there. And no matter what, as much as for a while, but there's something there where Tom King, no matter what, seems to sell. He has his fans. He always seems to sell decently. And so putting him on a Supergirl book, you'll get people to buy it. I'm not going to check it out because I don't care. But at least there's something interesting happening for Supergirl. This is the first time I've talked about Supergirl. I don't know how long. I don't remember last time I said anything about Supergirl. And it's because Tom King's writing a Supergirl book. So it's already getting people talking about it. So there's that.
I do want to say thank you to Tevye Smoke for supporting the channel. Why can't they de-age John Kent? Well, the problem is they're kind of embracing it. You see what Philip Kennedy Johnson is doing with John Kent. I think he's positioning him to replace Clark Kent as he goes to Warworld. And so they're definitely not de-aging many times soon. Is that the impression that you have, Dylan?
Yes, sadly, because Infinite Frontier would be the perfect opportunity to do it, and they're not taking it, so it's not going to happen.
That was the MacGuffin they needed to make him a 10-year-old again.
Yeah, it was just the softball pitch, and they're just like, nah.
Yeah, he's a 17-year-old. So I'm sorry, Tevye. I know that John is your favorite character, but he's sticking to where he is. All right, Joe. What do you think about Tom King being the new Supergirl writer? I think it's good for the character. It's a good place for Tom King.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with it. He needs other things to do. He's been doing the same kind of story for a little while. This will put him in a position to do something a bit more innovative, push himself in different directions, and I think that's really what he needs right now. I'm not saying this is going to be a Batman Elmer Fudd, because that's really hard to top. But I do think this is a good direction. I mean, I do love Supergirl, but my Supergirl is in an orphanage and also goes by Linda Lee Danvers, and she has a robot duplicate in a tree, and she fights Kandorian scientists like Lesla Lar. That's my Supergirl. So I don't think we're going to be getting any of that. But
my Supergirl has a boob window.
Uh-huh.
Power
Hey,
girl.
that's mine too.
That's my Supergirl. I don't care about the actual Supergirl. I just care about Power Girl. That's it.
I love the 50s. All that Silver Age Supergirl stuff where Superman's just like, you're not allowed to tell anyone that you're a Supergirl, and it's just ridiculous nonsense. I love that stuff. It's great. It's all sorts of weird kryptonite. Kryptonite's always showering from space in different colors and making everyone go crazy. What the hell was going on?
I know it. It's insane. It's like there's more kryptonite on Earth than there was on Krypton.
Yeah.
It's like. Seriously, I don't get it. It's like Lex always had like 55, 30, tons of it at any given time. It's like, what the hell?
There was this one issue of, obviously not an issue. I guess it was, I think she was in Action Comics at the time, when like Superman's like burrowing through a mountain, because you burrow through mountains, and there was kryptonite in the mountain, and Supergirl had to like come and save him because he's like, help, I'm trapped in a mountain I was burrowing in, and there's kryptonite in it.
How did it get into the Do they understand geology? No, it's a comic book. So.
It's really good stuff. Just
it doesn't make any sense. So it's okay.
And Streaky the Super Cat, who would later go on to be a valuable member of the Legion of Super Pets.
Streaky's awesome. he's not nearly as cool as Ace the Bat Hound, though. Ace is nothing is cooler as Ace. Yeah, that's a fact.
But then he has what was it? And then Supergirl's also very unique in that there's a space horse that wants to have sex with her.
Yeah.
Unicorn. Very few characters have Comet, the centaur that was turned into a full horse that's still really all about getting with Supergirl.
Crypto. It's just like and what's great is if you read Deceased, you got to see all of those animal characters again because they had a whole issue of nothing but Tom Taylor actually wrote an issue of nothing but the superhero pets in Deceased, and I thought that was hilarious. I'm like, what in the? Oh my God! There's Comet, there's Ace, there's Crypto, there's the cat. The cat got killed. Oh damn. Okay.
Was Beppo okay?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah, he's there. But Ace, Ace survived. I couldn't believe that. A dog without powers, actually survived a zombie apocalypse. So,
but that's good. I don't think any of this will be a Tom King Supergirl comic. I imagine it's going to start with them burying Streaky. That sounds like a Tom King thing to do.
There's something to make her depressed.
I was going to say, what the hell did I walk into? Whitney, Wisconsin as Power Girl? Supergirl?
Well, I mean, it is what it is. I don't expect anything earth-shattering from Tom King, but at least it's a miniseries, like Gervain was saying. He can't fuck too much up in 4 issues, 5 issues. So,
King can find a way to fuck things up in 3 pages.
I know, but I'm just saying, it'll
be 9 panels for each page.
There we go. Well, what if we find out? What if we find out that Les Lallar actually did successfully switch places with Supergirl back in the Silver Age, and it's been Les Lallar the whole time?
Oh man.
It was me, Lallar.
Oh wait. Oh, Les Lallar never existed after Crisis.
Yeah, but that they don't care about that.
Oh, okay. We'll forget about that. Yeah. She was actually hiding, in the basement of the Fortress of Solitude all this time.
I want to know who's going to end up being the simp for Supergirl's mommy wife character in this. Because you can't have an King book without.
Yeah. And of course she'll be gay. So.
Well,
Tom King's never done that before.
Tom King's never done that.
Okay. All right.
And he's never really written a female superhero. Well, I guess in the Vision series, Wanda is in there, but I think we're going to get a new flavor Tom King.
And Vision and
to be fair, Superman Up in the Sky was pretty good. I don't know if any of you guys read that, his Walmart series. It was actually pretty solid and way different than what most of Tom King's work has been. It was actually pretty good. It wasn't all depressing.
Could be. Swamp the Christmas special was also awesome.
It's Walmart though, so they're probably like, look, you can't have him just want to kill himself the whole time. you can't make the readers that depressed.
To work with Superman anyway.
We're selling the hillbillies.
Thank you very much to Kenneth Dowling for supporting the channel. Wasn't there a storyline where Batman and Superman went around the world trying to collect all the kryptonite to get rid of it?
Yes, it was a really good storyline. They had a cool fight with Aquaman too, because there was some kryptonite down in the ocean. It was a really good storyline back in the early mid 2000s. It was really good.
Did it fail?
Oh yeah, mostly.
Yeah, I mean, because apparently kryptonite is cheaper to ship than comics. But anyway,
Well,
it's like,
if you read Future State, they're making synthetic kryptonite. So
Yes, because that's a brilliant idea.
Mhm.
yeah,
If
like
anybody's
it.
watching Superman and Lois, they're doing the whole thing with Lex now as far as the kryptonite and the shortage of kryptonite and all that kind of stuff. So
Superman and Lois is really friggin' good from the first
It
two
is.
episodes. I really
Oh,
like
wow,
it so
okay.
far.
well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
You got a free little taste on Superman and Lois. As
Yeah,
far as,
seriously, if you're not watching it, watch it. It's really good.
there you go.
how's it compared
Does
to
anyone else-
WandaVision?
I think it's
Talk
better.
WandaVision? All right, let's do it. Let's talk WandaVision. How did everybody like the season finale?
It,
I can't believe that Vision shot JR.
it was all a dream, and Bob Newhart showed up.
Basically,
and then
Yeah.
Bobby Ewing walked out of the shower. It was. I can't believe Alex P. Keaton made an appearance so that his dad could give him a lesson. Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't Jerry Duggan writing this episode of Family Ties. Sorry.
Listen, you can make fun of Jerry Duggan when we get to Cable Doc.
Okay, I'll get
Yeah.
there.
Okay, there you go. That's a good segue.
There you go.
Boy, it
Not
made that
everyone-
issue of West Coast Avengers really valuable. I'll tell you that. Dear God.
Yep.
Have you noticed that? Do you think that's healthy, Pele? That every time there's a TV show where a scene happens, all of a sudden the comic book goes up in price 10 times?
Yeah, I think it's extremely healthy. I think it makes all the collectors like really excited, and then they go, "Oh, it's time to go make the circuit," and they'll start running to all the comic book shops. And I had a whole lot of those issues in the bargain bin. You know, the white Vision and the West Coast Avengers, and it's like my manager went through and pulled all of them out of the bargain bin. I think it was like 14 or 15 of them, and I said, "No, you can't do that. You've got to go back and go put about 3 or 4 of them back and just spread them out through the whole thing." And I said, and tell the people that I think I'm pretty sure that there's a few of them in there, so they can go digging for them for the next 5 or 6 hours. You know, they'll find other things they want to buy. So, you know, it's but yeah, to answer your question, I think it's very healthy because it creates excitement in the hobby. And we all need a little bit of excitement in comics. So
Well, there you go. And it gives you an opportunity to flip a comic book. Make a little
absolutely.
point.
Yep.
So I do want to say thank you to Jordan Fugate. I'm assuming that's how you say that. I saw that you did send a super chat with nothing, but then you had this afterwards. Can there be a storyline where Batman and Superman try to gather up all of Tom King's Batman run and get rid of it? Now that's got potential. Would that be too meta, Joe? Would that be too meta in the DC universe?
Not anymore, probably. And I mean, come on. Back in the 80s, DC and Marvel were constantly doing these things where it's like a superhero was always like, "Ooh, I'm picking up my own comic book. They got this storyline wrong." Cap was drawing Captain America comics in the 80s. So you can do this. That's fine.
Well, this is what I want to see what happened with X-Men Red, where Wolverine and Cyclops and Jean and Storm gather up every single copy of X-Men Red and Tom Taylor and all the notes on it and all the emails discussing it and throw them all into the sun. But okay. So yeah.
We haven't even got to X-Men yet, Doc. You don't want to blow your load, right? Jeez.
I still
So
think
that's
X-Men Red shouldn't exist.
It shouldn't.
There you go.
It's
Jamie Andreessen, friend of the channel. Pink kryptonite is really the most fun kryptonite. Does anybody agree? What do you think, Dylan? Is that the most fun kryptonite?
It's an interesting kryptonite with its effect on Kryptonians. I guess from a certain point of view, it can definitely be the most fun kryptonite.
You went Obi-Wan on us from a
Yes.
certain point of view.
What does it do? Like switch you from being an innie to an outie and an outie to an innie?
Essentially makes them gay, basically.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Okay.
I couldn't remember which one was. What's the one that makes him kind of a badass? The one from Smallville where he became where he moved to
Red.
Metropolis. Was that Red? I thought it was.
No, I thought that was yellow.
I thought it was red.
Oh.
I don't remember all the rainbow kryptonite.
Whichever
colors.
kryptonite turned Superman into the Punisher is good in
Yes.
my book. Tevye says it's red, so Tevye is normally on top of these things. So thank you very much for that comment, Jamie. That was fun. Now let's move on. Doc's been champing at the bit to get to this one. We've got rumors out there, and I just want to state up front, I don't believe these rumors. I don't think we're ever going to have a The Mutants movie instead of X-Men, but obviously the rumor got out there somehow. We do know that there was a Marvel exec that said the X-Men title was problematic, that it was gendered.
Victoria Alonso.
Well, there you go, Doc. I'm about to throw it to you. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that we ever see The Mutants movie rather than X-Men in the MCU?
I think that it would be the dumbest move in the history of multi-billion-dollar companies to spend $70 billion to buy Fox and get primarily to get the X-Men and Fantastic Four, but mostly
it was primarily to get their TV creating studios so they can make stuff for Disney Plus, but that was an added bonus.
Yes, but one of the major reasons why was still to get the X-Men franchise back, just to not use the name X-Men.
Well, there you go.
That would be the dumbest shit in the history of entertainment. And whoever would do this, hey, you know what? This worldwide well-known name brand, let's get it back just to not use it. That would get any executive fired.
It should get them fired.
But you had Victoria Alonso, who is a big part of Marvel Studios and big with, she gets producer credits on basically everything. That said that the X-Men name is problematic. You know what? Victoria, fuck you. You're an idiot.
Yep.
Wow.
So I was thinking with this, I do think it's probably wrong. I think it's like a cute nod to what Kirby originally wanted to call, the X-Men, but I could see that they're referred to as the mutants in scripts in other Marvel movies.
Yes. When they introduced them,
yeah,
in the MCU, they call them the mutants, and when they finally debut, it's the X-Men.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, you call them the mutants in the scripts, and then like the movie's going to be, X-Men. This could also just be a working title, as we all remember, if we were around then, that Star Wars Episode 2, the working title was Jar Jar's Great Adventure, and that didn't turn out to be the case. So hey.
Well, you know what? Honestly, if they were going to do something called The Mutants, that would be the Disney Plus show that introduces the X gene until an actual movie. But any movie named The Mutants is DOA.
Yeah, they could make a show where you have Charles starting up at school, and then finally there's a reason for him to get the team together, and that obviously would lead it into a movie.
Yeah. I mean, that would be fine. That would be a reasonable thing. But looking at starting with a movie that you're going to introduce this entire thing and not calling it X-Men is the dumbest shit in human history.
Here's the problem, Dylan. I've seen so many stupid things lately that as much as I wanted to dismiss it outright, I can't. Isn't that crazy?
True, but I thought now like adding an X to things made them more exclusive, like inclusive. I mean, we have like Wimix, and we have like all that. So I thought X-Men would be cool, but apparently it's not. Yeah, like you got the X right there ahead of their time, but apparently it's not. I don't know.
It's X squared. Oh.
One of the weird things, Gervain, about X-Men is really from the first day that there was an X-Men comic, it was an inclusive roster. When we got the Uncanny X-Men, the second Genesis, it was an inclusive roster. It's not like the X-Men title has had this issue ever. I mean, we've seen entire rosters of only female mutants, and people didn't have a problem with it.
Well, as I'm actively trying to protect my brain cells from this particular conversation, I am. I don't. I have to have more faith in Feige and the MCU and humanity in general than to believe that this has ever been seriously considered. Unless someone from Dynamite Comics got in there and just didn't realize they could use the name and they didn't have to like cover their tracks. Other than that, I don't see how in the world this is even a thought.
Yes.
Why?
It's the dumbest shit in history.
Well, we got the linear verse last week. Don't undersell.
Yeah, that's true. But still.
Okay, one of the dumbest shits in history.
Yeah, that's why I can't.
I put it up to this number.
Money being left on the table. There you go.
This makes my brain hurt.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the other X-Men topic. I know Doc's wanting to talk about this one too. We also got it announced. We've seen in the Cable miniseries, or I guess it's a miniseries now, Doc, from Jerry Duggan. Since the beginning, we've had Kid Cable, but at the end, they keep teasing Old Man Cable. The original Cable is still out there, and apparently they are going to meet. There's going to be some kind of a conflict that's going to end the Cable series. Doc, do you think that's because they're going to be integrating the real Cable back into Reign of X and the X-Men line? Or do you think they're just going to do away with the Cable series and we'll still see Kid Cable, on Sword, and they're just going to drop the original Cable stuff at all?
First of all, I do expect that you'll end up with two Cables as a result of this, because Kid Cable's not going anywhere. He's in Sword. They're not going to get rid of them, the character. There's just going to be two running around for no inexplicable reasons, because they know that the only way that you can actually sell a Cable comic book is with real Cable.
Or Rob Liefeld.
But I am going to laugh at generic Duggan for all of his protestations last month, or 2 weeks ago, when it came out where there was the rumor that it was going to end at issue 11. And he said, no, it's not ending at issue 11. Fuck you, it was 12. Who cares? Mm-hmm. Giant hack. No, look, this book was dead on arrival the minute that Jerry Duggan decided to turn it into bad scripts from episodes of Family Ties that he never wrote, or some other cheesy 80s sitcom.
Because it's Family Ties, Doc.
No, I like Family Ties for being an 80s sitcom. I don't want it for in my goddamn Cable comics. I like different things for different reasons at different times. I don't need them. This is like a peanut butter and broccoli with Tabasco sauce sandwich.
Oh, making me hungry,
it's
man.
Gross. There's certain things that you can like, and you don't want to eat them together. I like cheese. I'm a weirdo. I like cheese and I like beef, but I don't like cheeseburgers because I'm weird.
Whoa.
I like hamburgers.
It depends on how good the hamburger meat is.
But regardless, there's certain things that you don't put together. And bad, cheesy 80s sitcom scripts with superhero comics of a guy with massive guns that shoots things are not things you put together. And they forgot the part that actually makes Cable and decided to make him a bad 80s sitcom TV kid for basically the duration of this book, and it needed to die from the first issue. The fact that it took 12, I don't know if it was just a contract thing.
It's an indictment on Marvel. And I think Kevin Wedderburn is going to pick up on this. He's got a super chat. Marvel Comics and Marvel Studios need to fire all SJW wimps out of these companies now. I don't know. Is Gevian, is that the problem with Marvel Comics and Marvel Studios? Is it the SJW wimps?
No, I just think it was whoever came up with that rumor. I'm like, that rumor is just completely ridiculous. I'm like, the mutants. I'm like,
do you think Victoria Alonso is an SJW wimp?
She's an idiot.
All right, I'll put it this way. Okay, I try to keep as much as possible my policies out of my comics. So for me, the SJW thing at this point, it's just like I don't know what it means anymore. I would fall under the SJW brand if anybody ever bothered to look at my either particularly Facebook posts or anything else. No. But I don't consider myself to be a quote unquote wimp, if you will.
You don't try to
but
you
I
don't
will
try
say
to like
this.
destroy everybody's freedom of speech. So you're
Oh
all right.
no! I give you that. That's why I have a problem with cancel culture. I have a problem with the whole Me Too movement. I think when you check your brain at, I don't know if it's so much a wimp thing, but I think the whole SJW thing is when you check your brain at the door to the degree that you think you're incapable of being guilty of the very behavior that you're pushing against. I think that's when you lose all perspective and focus. So something like this with the mutants, it's like, what are you trying to address? Again, much like Crisis, this is a problem that nobody's looking to solve. No one has a problem with the name X-Men. Nobody. The only person who could possibly have a problem with the name X-Men is the kind of person that basically an SJW wimp would look like. And I don't know people like that. And I don't want to know people like that. I don't even like the phrase woke when that came out. And I was just like, when that first started coming up, I was like, whoa, what, you mean you just read a couple of books and realize you just can't take it? No. I'm not real big on the label part, but I agree at least with the sentiment that if somebody actually seriously suggests that as part of their job where they got paid money and enjoy benefits, that we should basically, as Doc said, chuck a 4-decade brand name out the window because we are afraid that somebody is going to be offended by the gender offensive name of the X-Men, then I'm out of here. I don't want to be involved with this. I'm done. Don't talk to me about comics or TV shows or streaming channels. I'm done because that is total and utter nonsense. They should be fired. I don't have to call them SJW wimp, but they should be fired.
Gevian, this might be his last time on the show. He's out of here. Hopefully that's not true. Yeah. But thank you very much for supporting the channel, Kevin. And also, thank you very much to Kenneth Dowling. The rumor isn't true. The X-Men will be in the MCU. It's just going to take them some time to make it in on their own. I'm patient. Judging from the WandaVision, MCU can't miss. I'm sorry, Joe. I was interrupting you.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just going to say, I think what everyone's really waiting for Cable issue 12, are the two of them going to have a jump rope competition? Is it going to be horseshoes?
Yes. How do you settle this duel?
Yeah, I'm leaning horseshoes because there was that horse.
How about
bionic eye staring contest?
Yes. Something like that. Maybe they'll go bobbing for apples and then they'll electrocute themselves or something like that. And that sounds funny to me. It's hilarious. Let's do that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Jerry Duggan plot. So, yeah.
Thank you to Kenneth Dowling for supporting the channel. I think we're all in agreement. I think we're going to see an X-Men movie. There's no way that they would leave that much money on the table.
Yeah.
Now, earlier, somebody in the comments was saying, I don't want spoilers for WandaVision. I have to say, I'm sorry. I do have a super chat that deals with a spoiler from it. And, I read all the super chats here on the channel, so I have to get to it. So I apologize. You might need to mute it here for a few seconds. This is from Lane Kramer. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. What did you think of the reveal for Evan Peters' character? Obviously, that was the Quicksilver from the Fox version of X-Men in WandaVision. Were you guys disappointed? What could it mean going forward for the MCU? All right, Joe, I'm sending it to you. What did you think of Evan Peters' reveal in WandaVision?
I wasn't really disappointed because I didn't think this was going to stick. I kind of felt no matter what was going to happen, this was probably going to be the only thing we see him in. So that's kind of where I was on that. Going forward, I don't know if we get Quicksilver.
The question is, are we going to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, maybe if we do, it's going to be very brief. I think they're going to want to, Kevin Feige is going to want to have a recast and have a lot of control over all that, I would think. So yeah, I wasn't disappointed. There was nothing about WandaVision that was disappointing to me, including that. It just, I think people got so caught up in all of these theories that they were losing sight of the fact that this was a pretty straightforward story.
Mm-hmm.
And
got Game of Thrones where everybody's expectations were so high that it probably was never going to meet it.
Yeah, everyone was thinking, like, this happens with a lot of these Marvel shows and movies, though. Everyone starts thinking that every character ever is going to show up and every storyline that's ever happened is going to happen.
In Spider-Man 3, that's where everybody shows up.
Yeah, no, that's where everyone shows up. And everyone's going to be disappointed because no one can have more than 1 or 2 lines because it would just be physically impossible in a, like, 3-hour movie for all of those people to have that much dialogue. But yeah, no, I wasn't disappointed by any of that. That was kind of like, all right, that you knew they had their, like, you know, escape planned. It was just a matter of when they were going to execute that with him.
My biggest disappointment on it was that they didn't do enough with, like, Photon. Like, she started off as like a main character. By the end, she was just like kind of just sort of there.
Mm-hmm. We're going back.
It just seems like a lot of.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
It just seems like it's a lot of. It seems that apparently the second Doctor Strange movie is going to be a really big deal in terms of setting up the universe going forward. I mean, to answer the second question, it's like that. That's where apparently that's
where
get
Captain America back, right?
Basically, it seems like they're going to do like what is it, Doctor Who, just going to regenerate the whole universe in that Doctor Strange movie. That's where they're going to tie all this together. So it should be interesting.
And I think that's where you're going to get to Logan again, because they're gonna have. Don't worry about not having Hugh Jackman in there. They're going to have to find a way to pass the torch to connect the Fox universe to the new Disney universe. So there's at least going to be you know, like a good 5 or 10 minutes, you know, whatever in the first time that you see Logan is going to be Hugh Jackman, because they're going to want, you know, they're going to pay him his $10 million, you know, and so all the fans can have their fan service, and then they're going to have like something that's going to de-age him.
Yeah, he's going to take the uniform and he's going to give it to Laura,
or it'll be blonde Vereen.
No, I think they're going to have a guy. I think from what I've been talking to people in, you know, people that are kind of around the project that I know, which are not high up people. They're not. They're just people that know a little bit of the scripting. But it's going to be a male Wolverine, and they're going to kind of do the whole thing with Wolverine and X-23. So
there you go. But it's not going to be taken. Thank you very much to Lane Kramer for the $5 super chat. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. All right, so anybody else upset that Cable's ending? Dylan, you're a big Cable fan, right? Did you see this happening with Kid Cable?
I've not been reading this series because there's so many damn X-Men series going on right now, and seeing Gary Duke, and I was like, I think I can skip that. So it ending at issue 12 doesn't really surprise me, and I'm not particularly upset about it, but I'm hoping, because like Doc, I agree, I think it's going to be, we're going to have the two of them existing. I think that's just what it's going to be, because they don't want to get rid of Kid Cable, but at the same time they want something that sells, which is normal Cable, what everyone loves, so I feel like we're going to have both of them existing at the same time.
There you go. Does anyone else have anything to say about Cable ending in issue number 12?
That we're going to
probably answer this question for me.
We're probably going to get Cable number 1 again soon. Yes. I would think.
God.
What's the question, Jay?
What's the appeal of Kid Cable? That's the part that I don't get.
When they introduced him, he was pretty cool because he killed his older self because he had gone soft, and he needed somebody to kind of go back to the mission because he thought, like, in the future he kind of went soft. But then they took that version of Cable that was like cutting people's wings off and doing all kinds of crazy stuff and murdering people left and right, and they kind of made him a whiny teenager. And then the appeal all evaporated.
All right, so I didn't miss that part. Okay, no problem.
Yeah, if we would have gotten Extermination, Kid Cable throughout the duration, it would have been a much, much better book. I mean, there would have been a fan base for it. But because he was goddamn vicious. But instead we got some Disney sitcom kid.
That whole thing in X of Swords where he just cried, you know, he went to his daddy and cried because he got a busted nose, you know, just kind of like, oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, nobody had any respect for him.
A low moment for the character. So I'm they need to contract the X-Men line, so I don't mind seeing this one go away. And I just Phil Noto was a good artist, but he wasn't the right artist for his cable book. So let's get to the last topic. This week we had the highest selling comic book in almost 6 years, BRZRKR #1 from Keanu Reeves. I actually got a comment from Matt Kent, who was adapting Keanu Reeves' script into the comic format. He said Keanu Reeves is actually quite involved in every single issue that's written. He has a lot of notes, a lot of script notes. So he's not just, adapting an overview of the story into there. Keanu Reeves is definitely involved in the day-to-day operations, but written by Matt Kent, Ron Garney on art. One of the craziest, most action-packed, bloodiest comic books I've ever read in my life. I personally loved every minute of it. I thought it was great. Pele, what did you think? Was there enough toxic masculinity in BRZRKR #1 for you?
It made Punisher Soviet look like a YA novel. I mean, and that's
they skin people alive in Punisher Soviet, but it's still more brutal. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it's more brutal. There's like more buckets of blood. It's like a Rodriguez movie on paper. I thought it was pretty wild. I can't say that it's really my cup of tea. I like action in comics. And I don't mind violence, but it's like it's just that's all it was. Really, almost was violence, and that's the
pages of it.
And that's weird, and that's they're not shying away from that. They're not saying, hey, making excuses for it, and we're going to find out why. And it's like that's apparently a very important reason as to why that is, and Keanu's very excited about revealing why that is. So and this is of course a vehicle for him to be this character in a movie probably somewhere in the future. But I'm really interested in seeing where that goes. But it's sold extremely well. I mean, man, it's sold, and the incentive variant covers went off the hook. I mean, they were crazy. So
lots of high prices on eBay leading up to this. I do need to say thank you to Kent Dowling. Comic book recommendations: Key and Black Panther tie-in, Batman 106, BRZRKR #1. I love Game of Thrones. Take care, guys. We'll take care to you too as well.
Thanks,
Kenneth.
Kenneth.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate the recommendations.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
All right,
awesome.
Joe. Did you read BRZRKR #1?
I did.
Did it quench your thirst for blood?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. Maybe I'm just desensitized to that sort of stuff, but I'm like, this is cool. The thing that kept popping up in my mind as I was reading this is I'm just like, this is what Valiant should be, and it isn't, and that's sad.
It totally reminded me. There's a silent issue of Ninja K from Matt Kent that's very similar. Not quite as gory and balls to the wall as BRZRKR is, but it's just Ninja K kind of going through this entire army of ninjas getting up to like the main character. It's a great read. And this is essentially the same thing, but it's giving you a little bit of narration through it. And I don't know. I thought it was a visceral experience. I can't believe Pele couldn't handle it.
I could handle it just fine. It wasn't that. It was just, I like a little more substance and I like a little story. God, you're so full of shit. But it needs a plot, damn it. But the plot's coming. The plot's coming.
The plot is murder things.
Yeah, but and that's fine.
Death kill.
It's coming. There's more story coming, so that's good.
What's the Jean-Claude Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren movie? Universal Soldier? He's Universal Soldier. Yeah.
I don't think... I can't remember if there was really any killing at the beginning of that movie.
Universal Soldier?
Yeah.
It was like 30 minutes of the movie, and then they started killing everything.
I thought they started killing everything. I thought the opening scene was an action, but it's essentially the same thing. If they get messed up, they kind of start regrowing body parts. I was blown away. I just thought it was a really exciting comic book. I was like, man, this is great. I'm hoping, obviously the whole series is going to be just like that. I believe it's going to be 12 issues, correct? Because there's supposed to be 3 volumes that they did in the pre-sale on Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, Pele, what are you going to be ordering high on this?
Oh God, yes. We sold See, it's a 500 count order, and I think number 2 we also ordered. I think it was 350. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, we're not expecting much fall off, because we have so many people put it on their pull list, and there's going to be a lot of really good incentives going forward on that. So, it's a good book, sells well.
Absolutely,
I'm happy.
Now I've got to give a shout out to one of the people here that's in our chat. So where is he? There he is. We got Fatal J that's in the comments section. He's watching. If you didn't know, he just launched Indiegogo for his Ninja Blast comic. And if you were looking for a fun, action-based ninja comic book, you've got one on Indiegogo from Fatal J. And you might want to sign up for that. It's live right now, and he's going to be on the channel tomorrow. We're going to talk about a few things, but we're also going to talk about that as well. So thank you very much, Fatal J, and definitely be looking out for that series. Did anybody else read Berserker and want to talk about it?
Yeah, I read it. It was really good. And like Kenneth just said with his comment, I was going to bring that up. It definitely had Wolverine Weapon X vibes big time. And it was a really fun book. I'm interested to see if they keep up this pace, because this was kind of just balls to the walls, just going throughout. And probably my favorite part of the book was when he punched through a guy, grabbed his rib, and then stabbed him in the throat with his own rib. So that was
stabbed another guy in the throat.
That was pretty cool. And seeing Ron
go, next page he beat somebody with his own arm.
Yeah, it was great. And just so many just eyeballs being taken out, and seeing Ron Garney's art, because I haven't seen him on a book in forever, but I think maybe the last time I read him on anything was like Jason Aaron's Wolverine, maybe. And
he was on Juggernaut.
It redeems Juggernaut.
And he's fantastic. And he did so good on this. I'm just interested to see where the story goes, and the backstory for the character, and the pacing of the book, to see if they keep up like this.
So I'm glad you mentioned Kenneth Dowling. He said, quick word on Berserker. To me, it harkens back to the early issues of Wolverine Weapon X with 10 times the violence. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Not my cup of tea, but I applaud the effort. Congrats to Keanu. Peace, I'm out. Thank you very much for joining us. I like the beginning because it looks like the end of the first John Wick movie. He's sitting on the bench and his head's down there.
Yeah.
And it kind of gets you into the action. And I don't know, what's a similar comparison as far as violence? Is it like
The Midnighter?
The Midnighter?
The Authority, volumes 1 and Authority Revolution. He literally he punches through Henry Bendix and rips his spine out through his chest.
Perfect. Yeah, because he rips the guy's heart out and everything. I hope they make it into a movie. They don't censor it, because that would be so insane. But I don't know that Hollywood has that much of a thirst for blood. But I knew it was going to be action-packed, but I certainly didn't expect 25 straight pages of just him annihilating people. Beautiful. It was
Berserker.
It was absolutely
lives up to the name.
Violence. I was absolutely shocked.
It's kind of what I always wanted in a Midnighter comic, but never got in any of the solo Midnighter comics.
Mm-hmm.
So, Joe, just as a comic book writer, did you think they were effective in using the dialogue through? I guess you're not really supposed to use. Somebody was saying you're not really supposed to use those captions during your action scenes, but there's essentially the conversation going on. I thought they set a decent enough table as far as he can't die, he wants to be able to die, but the U.S. government's going to clone him, and he doesn't care just as long as he can die.
Yeah. No, I thought it was used perfectly fine here. I mean, dialogue, what some people forget when writing this stuff is you're using it to speed up and slow down the action, how fast or slow someone reads a book. So when people pick and choose, if they're doing it right, to do like exposition as they're telling the story, it's supposed to be with the intention to get the reader to slow down, and then you want them to speed up during, those like action scenes. So that did this just fine.
We've got a super chat from Aaron B. Is anyone reading The Walking Dead Deluxe? I'm enjoying it in color. Also, I think the reading experience benefits from the cliffhangers every month. Anyone reading Walking Dead Deluxe?
Nah.
I'm sorry, Aaron B. I
No.
guess everyone
No,
read the
sorry.
originals, but The Walking Dead was an absolutely wonderful comic series when it was out. It was definitely a huge loss for the industry. And I think a lot of people could learn some things about Robert Kirkman's writing style. And speaking of Robert Kirkman, we've got David Gagnon saying, Invincible has more gory violence if you like it. Is that true, Doc?
Oh, yes. Now, you're not going to get as much, like, ripping guys' spines out and, like, stabbing them with their own rib. But you'll see people get their heads literally just smashed in or body parts ripped off. But it's done in a much brighter, like very four-color.
Exactly. Yep.
It would be like the world's goriest Superman comic.
Yep. It's all day glow.
Yeah, it's super bright. There's this great contrast between the level of gore and the brightness of the four-color comics. So yeah, I would definitely say, and I think from what I've seen of the trailers for the cartoon coming up on Amazon, we might get that there too.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's a Saturday morning cartoon gone wrong. That's what it's just like.
I want to say thank you very much to David for supporting the channel. I guess that'll basically wrap up the show. We've gone a little bit long. It's time to do some comic book recommendations. Dylan from The Real Comic Book Gamer, we haven't had you on a while. Have you read any good comic books lately?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago I read Reckless from Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, and it is amazing. Highly recommend. That creative team can do no wrong, pretty much. Like, everything they've done is fantastic, and that's their newest outing, and it's just really good. Highly recommend that. I recently caught up on Tomasi's Detective Comics. Sadly, that ended, but definitely recommend as well. It's a really good read, and I'm really enjoying what Donny Cates is doing in Thor right now as well, even though it's kind of similar to what he did in Venom with a similar storyline, but still really good, and definitely recommend it.
Nice. Well, thank you for joining us, and if you're interested in the Real Comic Book Gamer YouTube channel and Dylan's contact info, that is all in the video description, and that will go for all the panel members. Next up, Gervain, have you read any comics worth recommending?
Oh yeah, I recommend definitely Iron Fist, Heart of the Dragon. Really enjoying that. Like number 2, and I'm really enjoying David. I think it's David Watcher's art. I'm a big Man-Bat fan. I'm not going to go high recommendation on that, but if you like Man-Bat, I've been enjoying that particular series. Definitely Berserker.
That was good.
I like it.
Yeah, enjoyed all that. Yeah, and then Firepower. Still with that, number 9 is still going strong. And if you like Firepower and you like Chris Samney, I just finished up the Black Widow series, the one from 2016 with Chris Samney. Unfortunately for those of you with a weighted version, he is one of the writers on it, but the Samney art is worth it on Black Widow. But those are my recommendations.
Awesome. Pele, what do you recommend down at the shop?
Like I said, Berserker and the Swamp Thing. Oh my God, that's good. I'm really pumped for all the Swamp Thing stuff right now, and I've enjoyed the Future State Swamp Thing so much. It's my favorite by far of all the titles. One out of left field real quick, Jenghar in Shred, and that's a lot of people not on their radar. It harkens back to like the Jungle comics from the 1950s and stuff. I really liked the artwork, and it kind of grooved with the way its presentation and storyline and stuff. It is good. It's really good. It's unlike anything else out right now. So
there you go. All right, Doc, what do you recommend this week?
Hellions, because I'm going to recommend Hellions from now until they disappointingly cancel it, because it's really, really good. And surprisingly, I will recommend Demon Days X-Men. You're gonna everybody that's watching, Wes and I will have our discussion on that's coming up soon. I think it's coming up probably tomorrow. Yes. And you'll get to watch the review on that, but I highly recommend going out and picking it up.
We might eat a little crow on that one, Doc. It ended up far exceeding our expectations.
Yes, sir.
All right, next up we got Joe. What are you recommending this week?
Well, the next line of TKO shorts is available. I was part of that first wave. The second wave just came out, and in particular, Dame from the Dark is in that wave. A buddy of mine, Rob Pilkington, wrote that one. So, definitely check those out. They're $2.99 each. There's like 6 shorts available total now, and TKO's they're great. So definitely check those guys out. Also want to throw out that, with it being Women's History Month and all that, looking into, women that impacted comics. What was it? There was, back in 1972, The Cat at Marvel, written by Linda Fite, who was Herb Trimpe's wife, and laid out by Marie Severin, was done at Stanley and Roy Thomas's push to get more women to read superhero comics. So they decided to get a woman to write and a woman to draw this comic back in 1972. It only lasted 4 issues, but keeping in mind, like, people roll out these kind of ideas recently and act like this is a new thing that the old guard never would have let happen, and we're trying to do this. These are things that have been going on for this is going back almost 50 years now. So don't be fooled. These are things that have been going on for years and years and years, and they'll keep doing it, and everyone who comes up with it will act like it's a new idea that no one was willing to do. But these are things that have been going on for a long time, and it's worth knowing about the history of women in comics and people like Linda Fite.
Thank you very much to Darth Bobcat for supporting the channel. Really appreciate that. So this week, the plot number 8 is the final issue, I believe, of Tim Daniel and Michael Moriarty's wonderful 70s kind of setting horror series out of Alt Comics. Highly recommend that. That's been one of the better horror comics come out the last few years. Love that series. We also got the first issue of The Chariot for Brian Edward Hill. He's obviously kind of moved on from comics. He's doing a lot more screenwriting, television work. So it's nice to see him come back and do a little bit of work. I personally have not read that yet, but it's Brian Edward Hill. I imagine it's going to be worth your time. And the last thing I will recommend is Fear Case, also from Matt Kent. Obviously, he's getting all the publicity for being involved with Berserker, but Fear Case is his first horror comic series, and it's been very good so far, and I think you'll like that as well. I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us, and I had a great panel today.
Whoa.
And we do have a super chat from Jamie. A little something for the Comic Book Funds jar. Everyone pre-order Beckstar for Mad Cave Studios, written by our very own Joe Corallo.
That's right.
And Introspective Keith. Check out the trailer on Mad Cave's channel. Absolutely. And
thank you.
Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you can go out there and support Joe's Beckstar series, go to your comic shop, get the Diamond ID code, put it on your pull list, and I think you'll be very happy. Very proud of that series, and it's first-time artist, right, Joe?
Yeah, this is his first big gig. He's only done like shorts before this, so yeah.
Yep. If you haven't hit the like button, smash it hard. Smash.
Absolutely.
Like the smash button.
And so thank you very much for supporting the channel, Jamie. Really appreciate that. We also have a super chat from Skip a Chop, friend of the channel. Ice Cream Man and Chariot by Brian Hill. Really good. So thank you very much for supporting the channel. That will do it, folks. This should be our second podcast on the Podbean network, and much more to come. Thank you all very much.
Wash your ass.
Next week.